In this video, we're going to take this old Pedialite bottle and make it into something useful. So let's get started. Hello, all you DIY fiends out there. Welcome to the Creature Comforts channel. This is an old Pedialite bottle, and I used to use it to fill up my dog's water dish rather than bring the whole dish over to the sink and take the risk of spilling it all the time. I would fill this up, pour it into his dish. He was just a small Chihuahua. He has passed away now, so rather than throw this away, I'm going to keep it around and I'm going to make it into something to kind of keep his memory alive. It's not going to be a dedication to him. It's going to be more of a useful thing around the house that I can kind of, every time I look at it, I'll remember him. The reason I'm not going to put his name in it or anything like that is I have other ideas on how I'm going to immortalize him, but I just couldn't bring myself to throw this away because of the fact that it's, something that I used with him every day. So we're going to make this into a kind of a paintbrush or a pencil holder. And I made it look like it was a drippy candle or drippy ink or drippy paint. So that's what we're going to do with this. And I'll show you how we're going to do that next. First off, remove the cap. We don't really need that anymore. So what I want to do with this one is I want to cut it pretty high. So I'm going to use my little nippers, little clippers that I got at Harbor Freight. They seem to work good when you're kind of trying to do something kind of detailed or whatever or whatnot. So I'm going to cut it pretty high, and then I want to put a different look to the top of it, so I make sure and I know which one it is. I think after that I got this started, so I think we're going to use some regular scissors. It'll go a little faster this way. But I want to make this one look different than the other one so I can discern it from the other one, so I know which one was his water bottle. Now I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to give it some movement so it looks more like a candle type situation. I'll probably play with this a little bit, go back and forth on how low I want to get it and everything. So but I just want this one to look a little different than this one here, so that, like I said, I can look at it and know it was my pup's water bottle. We don't want extra little pieces kind of hanging off of it, and we want a flow to it rather than having kind of points on it and stuff like that. That don't look too bad. We'll move on to the next step. Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to use hot glue to make the outside, make it all drippy like a candle. And I have this on a ice cream top so that I can pop it back off. The hot glue doesn't stick to it all that well. And also what I kind of figured out is basically you have to kind of start at the bottom and work your way up so that each individual drip kind of drips down the side on the top of it. So we're going to kind of fill the bottom in first all the way around, just to try to keep it in one spot. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these extra little pieces and kind of keep them within the newer hot glue so I can bury them down underneath and not waste any hot glue. Same with all my little extras here. I actually tested these. This is one of my containers for cotton candy, and it seems to come off the ice cream top better than it does the cotton candy one. So I'm going to try to use up all these little extras that fall off the end of the hot glue just to fill the areas. And we want little puddles around the outside of it. It's a long process, but after it's done, it's kind of worth it. Well, these days I'm going to get a bigger hot glue gun so it goes a little faster. Almost all the way around. It's a little tough to see on camera, but I've taken some of those bits and just kind of threw them in there so that I can pile more glue on top of it. It just kind of fills the space and utilizes the hot glue that you kind of normally don't utilize. Just a little easier than putting it into a different container and melting it. because you lose some that way anyways. I've put this on glass before. It comes off of glass kind of hard, and then you kind of worry about breaking the glass that you're putting it on, like a glass from a picture frame or something like that. It's kind of, am I going to get it off here, or am I going to break the glass? So this plastic, because I can bend it and pop the hot glue off, and I went underneath the container, it can hold it in place until I'm ready to move it, ready to be done with it and paint it, and we're not breaking glass. And you just slowly build up, and you can use the tip of the hot glue gun to kind of move it around, because of the fact that the tip of the hot glue gun is hot. So if you got something in there that you don't like, you can melt it back and almost sculpt with it a little bit. But the thickest part of this is going to be the bottom, because that's where all the wax has kind of bubbled up, and we're kind of going into a second layer. Basically, we're going to get above that layer and let it drip down into it. And as I said, you don't have to be happy with the results of it. You can kind of go into it and push it around with your glue gun, and that's primarily why my glue gun looks the way it does. You just kind of drip it until you get to the top. But we want some kind of platform down there so that it doesn't look like we just quit at the bottom, you know. We want it to look like the wax is kind of piled up. So your biggest part of it, the most of the glue, is going to be at the bottom. A little bit time consuming to work out for your forearms. But hot glue is pretty cheap. If you're talented enough, you may be able to take 2 hot glue guns and work both sides at the same time. Got it kind of puddled up around the bottom of it. Just give it kind of an uneven look all the way around it, so it's not all even. And then just slowly work at it. But I'll get a few layers going, and then we'll start the camera again. Okay, what I figured out is you kind of want some good light. I got my window open so you can see how the drips are going. And also, if you're using a pedialite bottle, got this little dip right here. So what I usually do is I go across this and kind of fill it in. Just kind of slowly fill it in, because what's going to happen if you do a lot in one spot, you'll get a whole sheet of it going down. And also, if you have to take a break and want to leave your hot glue on, just kind of leave it off to the side. Just leave about 1/8 of an inch there and just kind of let it sit, and it'll bubble up and make its own drip while you're kind of taking a break. Also, another way, with this smaller glue gun, I figured out that if you push on the back, you don't have to squeeze it as much. This is an old glue gun, so I don't know if all of them are this way, but because I've had these glue guns for years, you just kind of push on it and it'll make its own drip. As it drips while I'm doing it, I just kind of work my way up. You want to keep them a little bit separate, just because, like I said, it'll make a whole sheet of a big drip rather than looking like a candle. That's kind of why I'm kind of waiting right now for that little dip down there to cool off a little bit so it hardens up. And you just want to keep an eye on where there's no hot glue. That's why the light of the daylight really kind of helps. It doesn't all have to be covered, just because you can leave some really low set stuff in there. I noticed on my old one, it does have a little bit of indent right there, where it has a little indent that goes kind of all the way across where that groove is. It still looks good. But anytime you do something again, you always want to perfect it a little bit. But what I'll do is I'll do one over here, and then come over here, and then do another one, just to try to keep them away from each other. You don't have to go quite that far away to do it, but it's about a 1/2 inch or so. And you'll slowly build up that candle look to it. Once you got glue on both sides of that little canyon of that little indent, you can slowly build it up. Where if you have a starting point without that little groove in it, some kind of container without that little groove in it, you don't have to worry about that. Before my puppet passed away, I thought about doing this with a smaller container, just to show you guys how to do it. But the fact that he passed, now I want to utilize this as a small tribute that I can look up on the shelf and say that was my pup's water container. And you want it to taper slightly up towards the top. That's why I gave it quite a big base at the bottom. But if your hot glue gun leaks like mine does, like that, I can just kind of wipe it on there, and because I'm going to cover all that up anyways. Keeps a little bit of the waste of hot glue down so you're not dripping it all over the place and then trying to throw it in there. It's almost like you want to do kind of a teardrop shape to it, and then cover up your ends of that teardrop by going up the container. But it takes a little while, but it doesn't really take that long to do once you get kind of the hang of it. It does use a lot of hot glue, but for what this is for me, it doesn't bother me a bit. But like I said, hot glue is fairly cheap. Get a big old box of 500 for, I can't remember what it is, 20, 30 bucks on Amazon. It's a fun, easy project. You don't want all drips. You want some kind of thick area here and there. You don't want it to all look drippy all the way through it. Like this one has big old drips, and we'll probably do more of that up top. A lot of this bottom, if you do big old drips, it'll cover up some of them small drips down in between. It's all about your taste, kind of what you like and what you don't like. As I'm getting towards the top, I'm getting kind of less here and there, just filling the areas, but just kind of make a texture in there. And when we get to the top, we want to bubble up over the top of the edge, and that's where we'll get our bigger sheets of it coming down. But as I said, if it's something you like, you can just kind of go in here and just fill little areas. I'll use a lot less glue that way, but just try not to drip inside of it. And notice I'm building this up so it'll just drip right straight down. And you just kind of let it kind of fall on its own. Any project is just kind of what you like to do. You know what I mean? You don't have to do the same thing I'm doing. You just utilize the idea to do what you want with it. Art is in the eye of the artist. Okay, I'm going to finish this up. If there's anything else that I think I need to tell you, any little tricks that come along or anything like that, then I'll come back and show you. Otherwise, we'll be painting next. Okay, when you do this build up over the edge, what I usually do is I take and do a kind of a small line of glue, and then just slowly kind of build it up. And you let that cool while you're working on the rest of it. And as you see here, I got some of the line there. You just kind of fill it in and let it pull from that line and drip down. But I've got some more to do here. I've got some areas that I want to fill in yet. I just want to come back to show you that little drip edge there. A little tough to see. Once I paint it, you'll see it a little better. But here in the sunlight, I can see it pretty good, how the drips are coming out, shifting out. But I'll get this all finished off, and then we'll come back and paint it. Okay, what I'm going to use to paint this with is I'm going to use some enamel paint, some black gloss enamel paint. And I've found that the oil-based paint sticks to the hot glue a lot better. First of all, we're going to see if we can pop this off here. Comes off fairly easily. Doesn't leave any residue. Seems to be fairly flat. So I'm gonna open this black paint up. Number 779 Rust-Oleum. You could use any black enamel paint or oil-based paint. And I've kind of found that the acrylic paints may flake off, so that's why I'm using the oil-based paint. I'm just gonna use a sponge brush. So I don't have to worry about cleaning it out afterwards. And it may take 1 to 2 coats. But I'm just gonna kind of sponge this on rather than kind of swipe it on, so I can get into all those little crevices, little gaps down in the drips that I made. It looks pretty much like I showed you on the first one. I don't have another color enamel paint right now, so that's why I'm doing this black. And the cool thing about this is if I put too much paint on here and the paint drips. It's all drips anyways, so. But it seems to hold up pretty good. If you sponge it on, you may not have to go back and do a second coat. But I'll get this all painted up. We'll come back, show you what it looks like. And there we go. I have a container for small paintbrushes and a container for large paintbrushes / pencil holder. Pretty much whatever you want to put in it. But this one is special to me. Now we'll do some beauty shots. Show you all the way around it. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to see further content. Leave me a comment. Let me know what you think. And like the video. See you all next time.